Bookdragon isn't a personality trait. Being a bookdragon is playing into consumerism. Let's talk about it. So, if you have seen one of my videos in the past, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Hides or Heidi. This is my channel all around book-related content. And today we're going to be discussing consumerism and how consumerism really has crept into the book community in many different ways. So, first things first is I'm going to define what Bookdragon is if you've not actually ever heard that term before. So Bookdragon, if you look it up online, is loosely defined as someone who collects books in the same way a dragon collects gold and jewels. So essentially you're hoarding books like a dragon hoards. And this term has been in the book community for a few years now. And I feel like it's really turned into something that was, in my opinion, kind of cute and like kitschy. And now it's turning into like a way to justify consumerism. And I feel like we really need to talk about it. I feel like it needs to be discussed, especially considering the fact that the holidays are right around the corner. And a lot of people are going to be tempted into purchasing things for other people for the holidays, purchasing things for yourself because of sales and everything else going on. So I just wanted to talk about this and maybe have this as a little, maybe you don't need that extra book. Maybe you don't need that extra book item. So I have a few points here that I'm going to go over. They are chaptered out. So if you want to skip a point, if you are more interested in one thing or another, go ahead and skip. Not going to be offended. Some topics are going to be more interesting to others than other topics are. So just a little caveat. Another thing that I want to put a caveat on is, in the end of the day, you're going to spend your money how you're going to spend your money. And I think that you have a right to spend your money however you want to spend your money. And you can listen to this and be like, Heidi, you can go pound sand and I want to do what I want. And that's fine. I just wanted to bring up some of the things that I personally saw and maybe have these things as like a thought-provoking moment for you to maybe just start thinking about what you're purchasing more and not being influenced into actually purchasing from, you know, the bookstagrammer that you follow, the booktuber that you follow, because it's so easy for us to like just normalize consumerism and normalize consuming at a rate that's not maybe realistic and reasonable and honestly environmentally friendly. We got to take care of our planet, everybody. So just some of my thoughts. So again, spend your money how you want, but maybe these are some thoughts you can have going into spending your money into the future. So that's my caveat before we dig into this. So go ahead, get your drink of choice, get your coffee, get your tea, get your hot chocolate, whatever your drink of choice is. I got myself a nice little tea today. And we'll dive right into this. So I have my notes, so if I look down, I always have to have my notes. My dogs are barking, excuse them. Hold up. I'm sorry about that. I literally lock my dogs up to do these videos. I give them like treats and chews and stuff to entertain them, but it doesn't always work. So they don't always want to, you know, work with me and be quiet while I'm trying to film. So as I was saying, I have my notes, so I might look down from time to time. Girl has ADHD. If I don't have some notes, we're going to be here for days. Anyways, I digress on that point. So the first thing that I want to really dive into is book hauls. And I don't think that book hauls are inherently bad. If you've looked at previous videos that I've done on my channel, I've done book hauls. I will probably continue to do book hauls into the future. I don't think that there's anything inherently bad with book hauls until people take them to an extreme. And what I mean by that is I've seen videos on like YouTube, I've seen like clips on Instagram, TikTok, etc., where people are doing book hauls of 50, 60, 100 plus books at one given time. And I just really struggle with people doing these massive book hauls because realistically, most people don't read at the rate that they're buying the books that they have or that they're getting. So I did look up some statistics, and this is all like mostly like United States based, because that is where I'm like located. I know that some of this will translate into like other countries as well, because I know that these are not just United States, like American problems, but the numbers that I'm getting and some of the information I'm getting is the US based numbers. It's just because that's where I live. So, you know, you might want to look up maybe some stats for whatever country you happen to live in. So another caveat. So I looked this up, and it says that the average American reads 12 books a year. And I will say, like, most Americans don't read, so I know that for people that are in the book community, you're probably reading more than 12 books a year, more than likely. I would say, like, just from my personal observation, I would say most people in the bookish community read anywhere from 5 to 10 books a month on average. Again, I couldn't find any good statistics to really like back that data up. So it's like it's really just observation based from what I've seen. Even Goodreads didn't really have a lot of like good data for me to be able to pull on like averages of like what people are completing with their reading goals and all of that. So I do know that like the average like true reader is probably reading anywhere from 5 to 10 books a month. So if you're, you know, on the higher end of that, that would get you, let's say, 120 books a year. If you're doing a haul a couple of times a year where you're potentially doing 50, 60 books, more than likely, like, you're not actually finishing the books that you're purchasing, if we're being realistic. And I just feel like, why do we keep purchasing books that you may never actually get around to reading just because you saw somebody else have the book, or just because you want to be able to say like, oh, like, look at this massive book haul that I did, and like do it for clout on the internet. So if you're seeing those, like, don't ever feel pressured to have to do a massive book haul, because you're not going to probably be able to read it unless you're somebody like myself. I read anywhere from 12 to 15 books a month on average. And that's not physical books only. Like, some of those are audiobooks. So like, that's a whole other ball game in itself, where you're looking at like physical as opposed to audiobooks as well. And I just think that you should really look at, like, when you're wanting to do a book haul or wanting to go and buy like a larger amount of books, are you feasibly going to be able to read those? And have you actually had the time to research each of the books that you're purchasing to know if it's something that you're legitimately going to enjoy reading? Because I know I've picked up, you know, my fair share of books where I'm like, I don't really know what this is about, but it, you know, it seemed like I had a good vibe, or I like the cover. And sometimes that's worked out, and sometimes that has not worked out for me personally. If you've seen any of my review videos, you've seen where I'm like, I bought this and I didn't know what it was about, and this was a bust. Or again, it's been the opposite. So like, that's another thing, is like really knowing like what you're purchasing, and are you gonna be able to finish those books before you're buying more books. Again, I have a surplus of books. Again, if you've seen my videos, you know that I purchase quite a few books. So like, this is also me adding myself in the process of discussing this, because I definitely started really looking at like the books that are coming in as opposed to the books that I'm actually feasibly able to read. And I've had to slow down personally on buying books, because I know that I'm not going to be able to get to all of these in a timely manner. So I just need to slow up on the amount of books that are coming in so that I can get some more of the books that I have read. So that's just kind of where I'm at personally with book hauls, and just kind of my mindset on book hauls. And I just think that it'd be something that's really good, that if you're going into buying books, really think about it. Really like see, like, is there the value to me as an individual in purchasing all of these books? Because I've seen some book hauls and they're, again, 50, 60 books. That's a lot of money. Are you able to afford that? Like, can you feasibly afford that? Or are you going in debt? Or are you going broke to be able to afford all of those books? And I will tell you, it is not worth going in debt over books. We have things like the library. We have like resources like Libby. We have resources where you can get books at zero cost to you. You might have to wait for some of them depending upon the book, but they would be zero cost to you. So you wouldn't be putting yourself in debt from buying books. So just kind of my thoughts on book hauls. Again, I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with them, but I think people are taking them to an extreme, and we really need to like evaluate those before we decide to go and do a book haul. Personal opinion. So if you agree, let me know. If you disagree, also let me know. I'm very curious to see your thoughts. The next topic that I wanted to talk about is having multiple copies of the same book. Now, I personally have multiple copies of certain books in my collection. A Court of Mist and Fury, I think I have maybe 4 copies of that book, just because of gifts and other things along those lines. So some of them I purchased myself, some of them were gifted to me from other people, and that's also like one of my all-time favorite books of all time. And there are certain times where I don't think that there's inherently anything wrong with having multiple copies of a book, especially if it's something that you really love and cherish. Where it becomes a problem to me is when we buy multiple copies for what I'm going to say are silly reasons. And I think a prime example of this that's somewhat recent was when Crescent City 3 came out, and there were, by all technicalities, 6 versions of the book. There was just the plain Jane version, and then there were 5 different special edition versions that had additional chapters at the end. And there were 5 different versions that you could buy. One was a Barnes & Noble version, one was a Books A Million, Target, Walmart, and I believe an indie option. And in each of these copies, you got different chapters that were additional with different perspectives and all of that kind of stuff. And there were people that bought every single version. Every single version. So if you're buying just the 5 that have the different extra chapters, and you're buying them at like full price, so let's say $30, you're spending $150 on 5 books that are essentially identical minus bonus chapters at the end. I don't know if you know this, bonus chapters are on authors' websites. You are not missing out if you do not have every single bonus chapter. Go to the author's website and read the bonus chapter. They always add this, at least I'm aware that they always have the bonus chapters on their website. I personally have not come across one that has not been available online in some capacity. So you literally, there are people out here literally spending $150 for bonus chapters that are free online. That is wild. That is wild. Literally $150 would cover my entire electric bill for a month, plus some. That's crazy. That is crazy. What are we doing? Why are we buying all of these? And I've also seen where people are they love a specific book. Again, I'm somebody that loves specific books. And they'll buy the book in different editions that are in different languages that they can't actually speak. Like, there was a Fourth Wing book, I believe. It was Fourth Wing or Iron Flame, and there was this absolutely stunning German edition that was completely different than any other edition of the book. And people were buying it, and it's like, okay, like, you have a shelf trophy, but you can't read it. What's the point? Like, other than having a shelf trophy, I just don't get buying something that you're not actually getting any kind of actual value out of. Unless you're planning on learning German at some point, and you're like, yeah, like, one day I'm like in the process of learning German and I would love to read this book in German. Great. I'm happy for you. I hope that that is a great experience for you. But I've seen people that they had, like, they're an English speaker and they have like seven different versions. I think it was one of the Crescent City books, actually. They had like 6 or 7 different versions of one of the Crescent City books, plus a French edition, plus a German edition, plus this edition, and that edition. And it's like, why do you need, I want to say, if I can find this video, I'll put it up. But I want to say that this person literally had, I think, 16 versions of one of the Crescent City books. 16 versions. That is wild. That is such a waste. That is a waste of your money. That is a waste of resources. That is a waste of your space. To just sit here and brag that you have 16 versions of this book. I'm going to tell you, when I saw this video, I was not like, wow, that person really loves those books. That's great. I'm really happy that they have all of those. I'm looking at you and going, what is wrong with you? Why are you buying all of this? Why are you wasting your money? You can't speak all of the languages that you have copies for. You can't read them. Like, you can't even read the book. It's just mind-blowing to me every time I see people do things like this, because it's just such a waste. I'm sorry, it's a waste. This is one where I'm dying on the hill that is a waste. You do not need 10 plus, even really 5 plus copies of the same book. You just don't. You don't. I promise you, you don't. That's excessive. It is unnecessary. That's what it is. That's just what it is for me. So, sorry, you don't need multiple versions of a book, and you don't need it in languages that you cannot read or do not ever intend on, like, learning to read later on in your life at some point. So, that's a hill I'm going to die on. So, don't be buying multiple copies of books. It's unnecessary. Maybe a couple of your favorite books, but you don't need like 5 plus. You don't. You don't. So, the next topic that I wanted to discuss is having multiple e-readers. I think having multiple e-readers is a waste for like 98% of people. There are some caveats that I will put out here. So, the new Kindle came out, the Kindle Color, and I had, tons of people were posting in, like, Facebook forums and Reddit forums and all sorts of other stuff discussing, like, the new Kindle and whether or not people thought it was worth it, whether or not they didn't think it was worth it. Oh, I'm planning on buying this. I pre-ordered it. I'm excited. And the amount of comments that I saw where people are like, oh, yeah, I own 3 different Kindles, or I own a Nook and a Kindle. And then there's the new type of e-reader. I don't remember what it's called right off the top of my head. And my question is, like, for the majority of people, why do you need multiple e-readers? I just don't get it. Because, so if we're looking at, like, just the Kindle. So I was, like, looking at just the Kindle prior to shooting this video. And right now, I could not find a Kindle on the market that has less than 16 gigabytes of storage. And so I got some mixed numbers on this. So I looked up to see how many like books on average could be like saved per gigabyte. And most sites said that you get roughly 500 books per gigabyte. So if you have a 16 gigabyte Kindle, you can have around 8,000 books. 8,000 books. That's a lot of books. Most people are not going to read 8,000 books in their entire life. It just won't happen. So what is the point of having, like, I would get it if you like, oh, like I need like the extra storage or something like that. But I was seeing people like, oh, well, I have a Kindle for my home and I have a Kindle for my office and I have a Kindle for like my purse so I can like travel around with it. This is a Kindle Paperwhite. It is small. This is a book. This fits into most bags. Almost every bag. Like most purses, this is going to fit into. This can fit into some pockets, if we're being realistic here. Just take the Kindle with you. Like, why do you have to have one at different locations? Just, here's my Kindle, let me put it in my work bag. Here's my Kindle, let me throw it in my back pocket. Like, what are we doing here? And I'm not, like, I will say, like, most women's jeans, they're probably not fitting in your pockets, but that's a whole other conversation in itself. We're not talking about women's jeans and pockets. But, like, you can just carry it with you. It's small. Like, that's, like, part of the reason why Kindles are so nice is because you can have an entire library in a small little rectangle here. It's very portable. It's very nice. And the battery life on these, this is a Kindle Paperwhite. The battery on these bad boys is amazing. Like, I haven't charged this for at least like a couple of weeks. And she's still going. So I just don't understand why people keep buying another e-reader if you already have one at home that works. If yours like craps out, you've had yours for years, or you know, it fell and it busted or something like that, I understand. Life happens. Technology sometimes gets old. Go ahead, buy yourself a new one. But you don't need more than one. Now, I will say, the caveat to the new color, the new Kindle color, is if you're somebody that reads a lot of graphic novels, manga, anime, I know it's not anime, it's manga. Anime's the show. Anyways, I digress. Maybe I could see where having one specifically for reading your graphic novels would be really nice, because of the colored pages and because you want like that extra experience. Because with this, I've read some graphic novels on this, and I mean, it looks like a sheet of paper. So, you know, you don't get color on this. So like, that's one caveat where I would say, like, if you are somebody that reads a lot of graphic novels or manga, that would be a great addition for you. And those do take up a lot of space compared to a traditional book because of the pictures. So that one I will give people. That one I'll give people. For about everybody else, I'm side-eyeing you if you're like, oh, I have like 2-3 Kindles or 2-3 e-readers. Don't need it. Again, spend your money how you want, but you don't need it. You don't need it. Stop it. Stop it. So, those are some of my opinions on e-readers and having multiple e-readers. Obviously, I'm a no on the multiple e-readers. Okay, so the last topic that I wanted to discuss was bookish items. I feel like there's always been a little bit of a market for bookish items, you know, like your coffee mugs or your bookmarks, etc., etc. But I feel like we've gotten to the point of getting a little out of control with some of the items that people buy. One of the items that I'm going to try to de-influence you on is the Kindle Arm. And I'm going to pull a picture up here if you haven't seen one of these. I know multiple people personally that have the Kindle Arms, and they either do not use them, they're like, yeah, I used it once and then I never used it again, or they hate them. I don't know a single person that has a Kindle Arm that uses it regularly and legitimately enjoys it. I think that the Kindle Arm is a completely unnecessary purchase, and I don't understand why people are obsessed with buying these things. And honestly, if I will not ever buy a Kindle Arm, because if I was like laying back, because I've seen people like laying back in bed and they have like their Kindle like on top of them, I'd be out. I'm out. Like, homegirl is asleep. Because if I put my head down on a pillow and I'm not like, you know, caffeinated up to a certain extent, like I'm like I can fall asleep just about anywhere for like short like spurts. Like short, like a little short nap, like I can get a 10-minute nap in just about anywhere. So I do not support the Kindle Arm because, again, I don't know anybody that loves them. Like, no one. Another thing with the Kindle is going to be the Kindle page turner. You do not need that. Just hit, okay, hold up. See how easy this is? Boop. Boop. I just turned the page. Wow. 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 You don't need a page turner. That is literally just $25 to $30 US dollars of wasted money. Don't buy it. You don't need it. You just don't. I've had my Kindle now for almost a year. I've never been like, you know what would be really nice? A page turner. No. Don't buy it. That's so stupid. Like, the page turners are stupid. I hate them. So, I'm trying to de-influence you from buying things that I think are dumb. Or know people, I have people that I know that have them, that do not like them. So, anyways, another one that I'm going to try to de-influence you on, and I see them everywhere, and I got influenced into buying one. I got influenced, and I'm going to de-influence you. And that's these stupid book, vases. Don't buy this. You're not going to use it. I'm telling you right now. I bought it. I got influenced. I was one of those people. You will not use it. I promise. It's a waste of your money. Save your $10, $15. I don't even know how much it was. Don't buy it. It's a dumb thing. Another thing. Why do we have so many book totes? Why are there so many book totes? Stop buying book totes. You don't need 15 book totes. I promise you don't. I have a premium Barnes & Noble membership, and every time I go in there, because I had it last year and it renewed, every time I go in, they're like, oh, you can get your new tote bag, because that's one of the benefits is you get a new tote bag every single year. And I'm like, no, thank you. I do not need another tote bag. I have so many of them. So if you have the Barnes & Noble membership, you can just say no to the tote bag. You don't need more of them. And there's just so much unnecessary stuff where we just get so much stuff that we don't need it. How many coffee mugs can you possibly need? And as somebody that used to collect coffee mugs, this was a struggle for me personally. You don't need 50 coffee mugs unless you're an avid collector. If you are really truly an avid collector, do you? But if you're just somebody that's like me who just impulse purchase coffee mugs, you don't need it. Put it down. put it down. Put it down. And there's just so much, like, there's so much, like, junk these days that they're, like, selling to people that you just don't need it. Like, you don't need 10 book blankets. You don't need 300 stickers, which, oh my God, I feel like I have so many book stickers. It's unbelievable. Like, you don't need these things. And I'm trying to de-influence you from buying things that you don't need. I promise you, you don't need 75 bookmarks, because we all know we've done this where you just shove something in there because you can't find your bookmark. So you find some random item and shove it in your book anyways. So you don't need like 5,000 bookmarks either. Like, just stop buying all of this stuff and stop being influenced into buying all of these things that you don't need. And again, I buy some of these things. I am trying to be better about buying some of these things because you don't need all of them. So I'm trying to be better about it, and I want you to be better about it because I want you to not waste your money and spend your money and go broke on things you don't need. Because I also struggle with these things. I want you to not go broke on crap you don't need. And don't fall into the consumerism. And if you slip, it's okay. We all do it. We all buy things that we don't need. But try to be like me and try to, well, in this aspect, try to be like me. In other aspects, don't. But try to really think about like the things you're purchasing before you purchase them. So that is going to be my wrap up today. I'm going to get off my soapbox about consumerism in the book community. I hope that you found this maybe helpful. I hope that going into the holiday season, maybe it'll help you just like really be like, does like my friend need this extra coffee mug? Do I need this like extra copy of a book? Do I need this? And hopefully in certain circumstances, you can just put the item down and move on, because we have so much junk we don't need, and we are constantly being influenced into buying junk that we don't need. So don't fall prey to the consumerism. Try to fight back on it and try to really think about the item before purchasing it. Treat yourself from time to time. That's fine. But think about it first. Really put some thought into it. And that's all I have. I'll get off my soapbox. I'll stop pestering. I hope you like the content. I hope to see you in the next video. Love all of my book baddies. Have a good one. Mwah.